Yeah, I think he wants like an interim W, and Netanyahu's not giving it to him. I guess like Donald Trump being who he is and having a short fuse about people telling him what he can and can't do could be a part of the reason for the resentment. But let's move on to the Trump administration back and forth and the drama. The girlies are seemingly fighting between Israel and Donald Trump. There are some points of contention. Let's take a look.
No one was happier to see Trump elected than Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But is that still the case? Trump's first term had delivered major wins for Israel: the scrapping of the Iran nuclear deal, the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, the Abraham Accords with the Gulf states, and the moving of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Netanyahu expected more of the same from Trump's return. And it seemed that way at first, with Trump removing Biden's sanctions on some violent settlers in the occupied West Bank and lifting Biden's hold on 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. But despite the initial honeymoon, Israel Hayom reported that relations have reached a low point with mutual disappointment on both sides. Now, as Trump hints at a big announcement to come on Gaza and reports say he's pressuring Israel for a ceasefire, the president seems to have lost his patience with the Israeli premier and is making policy choices for the both of them. First was the Witkoff effect in January, when Trump's envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, pulled Netanyahu into a meeting on Shabbat and forced him to agree to a ceasefire deal he'd spent months rejecting. But the Trump administration has also been holding talks without Israel and with some of its staunchest opponents. Axios revealed in March that the US had been holding secret direct talks with Hamas without telling Israel. Then in April, the US and Iran began talks to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the removal of US sanctions in their highest level contact since 2018, surprising Netanyahu with the news at a press conference. It's a similar deal to the one Israel encouraged Trump to scrap in 2018. With the US set to enter its fourth round of talks soon, Trump has said the deal is well on its way. But Israel's Channel 12 has reported that Israel is deeply concerned that talks are very, very advanced, that they will reach a bad deal that doesn't meet Israel's conditions, and that the US is not sharing enough information with Israel on key points, all of which it says is deeply disturbing. Israel had drawn up plans to strike Iran's nuclear facilities in May, but Trump rejected these, preferring a diplomatic rather than military approach, and Israel couldn't conduct the plans without US assistance. But it's not just Iran. One Israeli official said the country was blindsided by Trump announcing a ceasefire with the Houthis on Wednesday, days after the group's attack on Israel's Ben Gurion airport. Despite the Houthis saying that they would continue attacking Israel, Israeli representatives were unable to obtain information from White House officials until a full 24 hours after Trump's announcement. The US has been pursuing major policy initiatives without including Israel. It's talked with Hamas over the release of American captives, it's talking with Iran on limiting its nuclear program, and it's talked with the Houthis about their disruption of international shipping rather than their attacks on Israel. It's not a surprise, it's Trump's America First doctrine, which is also why his upcoming visit to the Middle East includes Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, but not Israel despite its requests. Can't offer Trump the kind of deals he's hoping to sign in the Gulf.
I'll say a couple things here. I don't trust Donald Trump at all. Okay? But I do know how he works. And I think there's a limit to how annoyed he gets with being bullied and being yelled at. And maybe that motivated him a little bit to change course, to change trajectory. Or perhaps this is another like silly move to optically change the situation to make it seem like he's in charge here. Benjamin Netanyahu is so annoying. And Trump is such a petty that I could potentially see it. I could potentially see Trump being like, yeah, this. Here is Daniel Goldman, congressman from New York 10, okay, is district in the House of Representatives, Congressman Dan Goldman. The Trump admin can try and gaslight us with hollow words, but actions speak louder. Fired Waltz because he was too hawkish on Iran. Entered into a deal with the Houthis that excludes Israel. Pursuing Saudi deal without Israel normalization. Trump is abandoning Israel. Dude, who cares? Like, what are you, insane? What is this? Like, when I see a Democratic Party congressperson criticizing Trump in this way, I'm like, dude, you're an American congressperson. Like, what the are you saying? What are you saying? What are you doing here? How psychotic.
Or as one senior Republican senator put it to an Israeli politician, why should he go to Israel? To help these deals, Trump has reportedly removed normalization with Israel as a condition for granting Saudi Arabia access to civil nuclear power, which had been a key point in Biden's planned deal. Instead, the Trump administration has warned Israel that it would be excluded from any US-Saudi deals if it did not end its war on Gaza. Haaretz reported on Friday that Trump has pressured Israel to reach a ceasefire with Hamas before next week's visit, warning that Israel would be left on its own if it did not join the US in making progress. Unlike the Gulf, Israel seems to be losing, not gaining, connections with the Trump administration. Jared Kushner, who played a key role between the two countries in Trump's first term, has stayed away from politics in Trump's second term.
On the one hand, I want people like that, like the Kanye West lovers, to feel embarrassed and to at least feel like there's societal pressure that they can't get away with doing like that. But on the other hand, all of the networks of influence that normally would deal with that sort of thing are too busy, too predisposed with people like myself. So I don't even know what to do. You know what I mean? Like all of these anti-Semitism combating networks are so invested in defending Israel right now that Nazis just basically get away with it double time. Like they get away with it because they can tie Judaism and Jews back to Israel at a time when, you know, nobody likes Israel. And also on top of that, they literally turn around and focus all of their efforts on They focus all their efforts on anti-Zionists.
Israel's typical strategy of pressuring US presidents by using other politicians as counterweights has not worked either. Netanyahu and his strategic affairs minister Ron Dermer thought they had a back channel into the White House via former national security advisor Mike Waltz, who was a traditional Republican foreign policy hawk. But Trump dismissed Waltz for coordinating with Israel about potentially striking Iran without him. The rest of Trump's cabinet believed that the US should either reduce its force abroad or redirect it to China. And whereas Netanyahu used congressional Republicans to try and corner Obama, he can't do the same now. Republicans are all loyal to Trump, and so there's no one to outflank the president with from the right. The two remain in cooperation over Iran nuclear talks and plans to bring aid into Gaza, for example. But the US seems to be making its own decisions on the region, leaving Israel to catch up afterwards. It seems Netanyahu is finding out that America first really does mean America first, even for its closest ally.
There's not much left.
Like, we got to dive a little bit deeper into this because U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, who is a real freak, like, I mean, he's more pro-Israel than most like ultra-Zionist Jews are, okay? Because he's an evangelical Christian, and those guys are some of the biggest freaks when it comes to Israel because they don't necessarily care about Jews at all. I mean, obviously they don't. They just care about like sending Jews either by force or voluntarily to the greater Israel so that they can trigger the rapture. Even he came out strong and said it's reckless and irresponsible for press to allege that POTUS and Israeli Prime Minister are not getting along. DB has spent more time with real Donald Trump than I have in the past 3 months, and I'm his ambassador. But he also literally said that Israel doesn't get to dictate American foreign policy. We do. I just don't see Donald Trump genuinely saying like, Israel, we're going to do this our way. They're just not responsible partners in all of this. But maybe it was Ron Dermer that pissed him off. I don't know. Of course, Israeli right-wing Telegram has started Hamas posting saying Donald Trump is Hamas. The through lines here is that he, A, wants to prevent anything that will make him get off the couch. B, understands at some level that ending global chaos was one of his biggest promises. And C, hates a lot of the people that want the escalation the most. There's also the fact that the solutions here are extraordinarily simple and were only avoided by Biden because his ideological commitment to Zionism and deference to Israel. It's funny that the end state here is just going back to Obama 2's policies and endgame towards the Middle East after Trump was the one who went through with Republican efforts to completely disavow and destroy them. This fact is also the biggest reason to be skeptical that he will actually follow through with any reversal from the consensus that he created. He seems to have realized that the end state of his track was always been at war with Iran, but not articulating a different path. I don't think there's a real Trump versus Netanyahu situation. This is all pretense ahead of the joint U.S.-Israeli war on Iran that is now imminent and will be done at the this is why you're only seeing some mild faint anger from Zionists. They're pathetically trying to establish the element of surprise ahead of the launch, but you would have to be to fall for it. I don't believe the Iranians are. When I said in January that Trump ceasefire is bullshit, that the genocide would continue, I was right. And the reason I was right is because it was materialist analysis of Zionist hegemony dictated it, as it does with the Iran war.
If I went to the Middle East visited Israel and I was killed, somebody shot me there, do you think there'd be any accountability? Seriously. If any of you went to the Middle East and were killed, do you think there'd be accountability? There wouldn't be. This is how outrageous this situation is. Just think about the Liberty. Think about Rachel Corrie. Think about this Turkish American who was just killed in the flotilla. There's no accountability. Israelis can do almost anything and get away with it. So the idea that opacity matters, I don't think so. The lobby basically believes it can finesse any issue. They've never seen an issue that they can't finesse. If I went to the Middle East...
Yeah, I mean, Mersheimer isn't wrong. And I think a big part of that, like I said, is because Israel greatly escalated its sophisticated influence operations after the dissolution of the South African apartheid, because they learned from the mistakes. And that's precisely where we're at. Israel also is a much more valuable ally than South Africa is due to its geopolitical condition. So I think like Trump's approach to foreign policy is pretty straightforward. It's all about what can you do for me and what have you done for me lately. Trump wants to head the Middle East, looking for rewards and achievements. Netanyahu offers him only headaches while asking for handouts. Yeah, I think he wants like an interim W. And Netanyahu's not giving it to him. But a week prior to this cutoff, he met with Ron Dermer, who some believe is going to be the next up. He also referred to a meeting that took place in April between Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and senior Republican lawmakers in Washington. During that meeting, Dermer reportedly told him what Trump ought to do, which angered the president. I guess like Donald Trump being who he is and having a short fuse about people telling him what he can and can't do could be a part of the reason for the resentment growing. Ron Dermer could potentially be Benjamin Netanyahu's successor. When Netanyahu came to Congress and demanded the U.S. invade Iraq, which he guaranteed would have enormous positive reverberations, sitting right next to him was Ron Dermer. I think Benjamin Netanyahu's like successor list is short. It's potentially that guy, or what's the other like Mossad guy? I forget. Chat knows his name. I'm forgetting now. No, not son of Hamas, chatter. That's so funny. No, Yossi Cohen, I think, is the guy. Yeah. Someone said son of Hamas. Yeah, dude, Israel's going to have a Arab IRL today. Chatter, it's literally 11:22 p.m. What IRL? Earlier on Thursday, Israel Hayim quoted sources close to Trump saying he's disappointed with Netanyahu and plans to proceed with steps in the Middle East without waiting for him. Sources added that Trump is particularly interested in decisions that would advance U.S. interests, especially concerning Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries. According to Israel Hayom, some of the planned steps are believed to relate to the long-anticipated U.S. brokered normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. We're going to switch gears now.